I'm here with actor Jeff Lima, who I have sat down with in the past. And if you want to check out our first interview, I will link that here. But since we last spoke, you booked one more appearance on Chicago Fire, right?
Yeah, it's always great to go out to Chicago for that.
Yeah.
Last time I went, it was Leon Cruz informing Joe that the next steps he would take in his professional career, and I guess it was a personal decision also,
Hmm.
probably wouldn't be the best steps. And Leon spoke from a very informed place because Leon was literally witnessing Joe about to walk
Hmm.
into Leon's footsteps, that he took 3 or 4 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and Leon knows how toxic that sort of environment was, and how dangerous that entire undertaking would be. Whatever Joe decided on doing thereafter, at least Leon was at peace knowing, I made you aware.
Yeah. That's got to be nice when they call you back since
Oh my God,
you've
yeah,
been recurring for almost since the start of the show, right?
yeah, since season one.
Yeah.
So it's always great to hear from Chicago, and I wish they'd write me in, like
Maybe
really
after they
write me
watch this,
in.
I'll send that to the publicist.
Oh man, please. But yeah, it's always special. I don't like to dwell on not being there as often
Hmm.
because I'll get bitter very quickly.
Yeah.
But I've always said Chicago Fire is the best set I've been on,
Yeah.
and I will always stick to that.
Now, in addition to your acting career, which you're phenomenally talented young actor, we spoke about that in the first interview. You are also a huge champion for mental health advocacy and erasing the stigma behind mental health and bullying. Let's talk a little bit about your involvement with those causes and what brought you to make that such a personal thing for you to
Yeah,
advocate for.
when I was 10, 11, 12, I dealt with bullying
Hmm.
and everything that follows that, which is just depression and just wanting to be away from everyone.
Hmm.
Even though your you know innate character is to be an extrovert. I'm not saying I'm an extrovert, but I
Right.
do enjoy other people's company. When I was 10, 11, 12, I had really crooked teeth, and I just kind of dealt with that, and people
Hmm.
reminding me every day. What that does is it makes you become an easy target,
Hmm.
right? And at the peak of this bullying, I was physically assaulted, which sucks, but it doesn't suck as much as all the scrutiny that you get the day after and the weeks after,
Hmm.
right? It's the parents, it's the principals, the teachers, and all of the student body knowing.
Yeah.
Uh, so a couple months ago, I was fortunate enough to be invited to be a part of the Hope for Depression Research Foundation. Um, and what they do so well is they group these neuroscientists and really involved social workers and
Hmm.
folks of that pedigree. And they pair them with folks who have probably experienced depression or bullying. And we got a very fluid discourse going. And what that does is we gain a lot of traction and a lot of response.
Hmm.
And everything thus far has been positive feedback, very genuine um, comments and folks saying, "How do I get this conversation into my school?" Because it's lacking.
Did they reach out to you from your prior work and advocacy? Is that how they found you to invite you, or had you worked with them prior?
No, I had not worked with them before. So I think they used the just Chicago Fire face,
Hmm.
and maybe because I was bullied for how I looked, this is what overcoming bullying looks like. You do get to um, overcome your complexes
Hmm.
and be in front of a camera, right? The complete opposite of what I guess I was expected not to do.
Hmm.
Um, but I still deal with my complexes. My hands are literally on my lap. I
Hmm.
think we've discussed this. Is I have a natural inclination to
To
cover
put,
my
yeah,
face,
yeah,
and all these teeth bleachings later.
yeah.
I just want to cover it up.
It's what your trauma has led you to. Your trauma was repeated bullying
Yeah.
as a child, but every decision, every thought, everything from that point of it starting for the rest of your life is about that. And I think that's what people don't understand about mental illness. They want to just get over it. It's over. There's no getting over it because you've patterned your life, and the way you deal with things is based on that interaction and that bullying. It's not a just get over it
Absolutely
situation.
not. It's very much about the journey
Hmm.
and acknowledging that you will always deal with the manifestations of that.
Yeah.
It does permeate to your day to day.
Mm-hmm.
But how do I deal with it? And what does my support team look like? You know, um, so I've had mentors and just folks who I can trust
Mm-hmm.
to talk about this over time, and they've encouraged me really to just step out of that.
Yeah.
It's not always comfortable,
Right.
but it does, I think, stretch me as a person.
You are obviously very comfortable talking about it. What is the response like to younger kids? Is that what's your target demo when you're going out? You go to high schools, or do you go to younger grades?
Yeah.
Because that's where a lot of bullying also happens.
I
Or
see. Yeah, walking into this, I thought it'd be just targeting high schools,
Mhm.
but the neuroscientists and social workers are finding that it's too late when you're tapping into high schoolers.
Mhm.
The goal is to get them when they're younger, and we've had great neuroscientists um, present empirical evidence that when you get them young
Mhm.
and when you build it into their norms, they're able to empathize with others, and you really hedge against instances in which I'm bullying someone because I'm able to feel, or at least empathize with how the other person may be feeling.
Right. Um, what is it like for you to have these younger kids come up to you and see that you're successful and using your platform to help them? You're almost in turn becoming a mentor to them. What is that feeling like for you, and has that happened repeatedly?
Yeah, it's, you know what, I think there's a lot of great that comes with that. Is a great feeling, um, but it's also, I'm so scared to fail. I'm so scared to make a wrong move.
Mhm.
Especially, we live in a very different time. Like any little thing you do um, can be misconstrued for the worst,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you don't make a great decision.
Yeah.
And I do acknowledge that if I fail a whole body of folk, a bunch of kids. So yes, it's been great, and I get this release of endorphins and
Mm-hmm.
all the good stuff, but it's synonymous with a certain fear, um, just not wanting to fail.
How do you balance the pressure of wanting to do good with that pressure of, oh shit, what if I do fail? What if they're not receptive? What, for whatever reason you think that it may fail?
Yeah.
How do you kind of combat that?
The first question I asked Louisa Benson, who's the executive director of Hope for Depression,
Mm-hmm.
was, what do I have to meaningfully contribute to this conversation? These are psychiatrists and leading neuroscientists and social workers. And she told me to simply just take solace in sharing your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I'm able to do that, I think that's enough for me. I think a step further, I do not second guess, but I always ask myself, am I making the best decision?
Mm-hmm.
Because I understand the ramifications that
Yeah.
just the wrong move might have.
As wonderful as psychiatrists and the doctors and even therapists are for
That's
people
right.
who are struggling
Uh-huh.
with mental health issues, sometimes it looks like from a younger person's point of view, they could be speaking at you, even though they're trying to help you. With someone like yourself, you're coming from the trenches. So I think they're probably more receptive to say, hey, this guy's young like me, like he had issues when he was my age, like look at how good he's doing. And I think the experience of going through the same thing
Yeah.
probably has a greater impact on them from what you're saying.
I think
Yeah.
I agree, and that may be the reason why Hope for Depression pairs someone probably younger, so that they're not up there for 2 hours and just
Right.
speaking jargon and
Yeah.
words that no one understands.
Right, right.
So yeah, I do acknowledge that while the folks who are listening in our conversations and just being inundated with all this science and whatever,
Yeah.
that my words may be impacting.
I feel like the jargon and the big words, like you said, are good in the clinical setting when they're in inpatient or therapy or intense outpatient. But to break through, they need a face. They need someone who's dealt with it personally. And I think that's why you're so important
I
to
love
them as
that.
well.
Yeah, a lot of we had a mom from the Bronx. We did it at the Palais Media Center,
Mhm.
our symposium, and a family came out from the Bronx, and she pulled me to the side, and she was so appreciative because I probably looked like where she lives,
Mhm.
and I probably brought it home for her. I'm not taking away from what anyone contributed that evening because I
Right.
think everyone contributed.
No, 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 you're not
Majestically.
speaking from ego. No, you
No.
you could tell you're not. No, no, don't even
But
don't even worry about
you know,
that.
it's one of those. It was one of those instances in which I could say, "Oh, this is why."
Yeah.
You know, because you know, I'm getting a little more mature or whatever, and I do like for folks to take me serious. And I think placing myself in a place that's vulnerable
Yeah.
and sharing of my experiences, I don't ever want it to take away from, you know, how people perceive me.
I think one of the other important things is that you're a young man. So for young boys and teenage boys and even people who are your age or even older, there's stigma around masculinity and being strong gets lost in the depression thing because it makes you feel weak.
That's right.
And so I think that there's another component to not only your mental health struggles in the beginning, but also that you're male and that you're now affecting other male, younger male youth and you know.
You know, for a long time, I thought that you know, toxic masculinity
Mhm.
was an issue of minority group.
Mhm.
But with Hope for Depression, we spoke in Queens,
Mhm.
just like we spoke in the Hamptons,
Yep.
and we're seeing the same experiences, right? They may look a little different. The experiences may look a little different,
Mhm.
but they're the underlying issues. One of them is toxic masculinity.
Mhm.
I was reading earlier today. I'm not sure if it was a free write or a poem, but it reminded me that boys cry themselves to sleep. Boys get called fat. Boys
Mhm.
get called ugly. We deal with this. We acknowledge that girls do, but you know, where a girl can maybe find someone to speak with, a boy's gonna have a harder time.
Right, because you're not going to go home to your dad. Oh, I feel fat, daddy.
Absolutely.
I feel this, daddy. They're picking on me. When you go do that, mm, a large portion of the time, it's, well, we're going to teach you to hit and teach you to box and
That's
teach you to
right.
this. And it's just like, not everybody's built that way. Not everybody wants to physically ass- assault somebody just because they're doing it to you. That's, you know,
That's right.
and just then you're too sensitive and you're too this and you're that and you're there's 100 other stigmas that get thrown on you if you don't want to deal with it that
And
way.
it's almost better just to keep it to yourself.
Mhm.
And
Which
drown in
leads
it.
to the whole problem and the depression and the
Yeah.
so it's just like a vicious circle around and around and around.
Yeah. You know, so the goal is that you know, with meaningful discourse, that we begin to develop common language, and in instances in which we're dealing with, you know, having a bad day, or in fact, if one of your nephews came home and he had a cut on his elbow, you'd be so quick to peroxide and
Yeah.
you know, Sporin and a Band-Aid, right? Why aren't we asking our children and nephews and such, how's your day at school? Oh, you felt bad today? That's just as important as the scrape on the elbow,
Mhm.
right? I think there's this new trend, mental first aid,
Mhm.
and I love that concept, right? Because we should be addressing mental health with the same urgency that we address something physical.
Does the fact that you're an actor and you are still uncomfortable with the trauma that happened to you, like you said, you cover your teeth sometimes, and I'm sure you do that when you're public speaking as a nervous habit. Does that also impact the people you're talking to? As in, he's a good-looking young man, he's an actor, he's this, he's that, but yet he's still self-conscious. And that self-consciousness, does it really affect you when you're on a set?
Yep.
That you have to worry about, oh my God, am I covering my teeth or am I not covering my teeth? Can they hear me?
Mhm.
So is that like twofold for you?
You know what? I think we laugh about it. I try to make light of it
Mhm.
because, you know, covering your face, that it's horrid, I
Mhm.
think, to cover your face when you're speaking with someone. But whenever I'm speaking to a group of folk or with a group of folks, I do like to make light of it, you know, make them aware, but still.
Mhm.
As far as being on set, I fear being fired. I've never been fired. And so a lot of the characters I play are more urban and very tough.
Right.
And so it's, you know, the censor is a little it's placed a little differently, and maybe that makes it easier. You know, when it's just me speaking, I'm a little bit lighter.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Like Show Me a Hero, it was a very
Yeah, yeah.
heavy character for you, and
right. So
so you maybe you get so in your head of being that father
I
who
think-
just wants to protect his child
yeah,
that you don't even think about the fact that, oh my God, my teeth, my this, my that.
I think that helps.
Yeah.
That definitely helps.
What is, I know you mentioned before we started filming about an award that's named after you.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
New York University has the Jeff Lima Production Award, which is a $10,000 grant
Mhm.
that goes to a thesis student
Hmm.
in the grad program or a recent alum to shoot their short film,
Mhm.
10, 20 minutes. And so just a few months ago, NYU announced the recipient, which is Max Walker Silverman. And I'm so excited about it because it's, I get to put my resources towards something that means a lot to me, which is advancing the Latino presence on screen.
Was this the first time it was awarded?
This is the first time, and it's in perpetuity, so we're going to see many more.
Right.
So
So this is like your baby. This is
Yeah.
the first one. It's
Yeah.
gotta be exciting.
And I'm super fortunate that it was Max who took it the first year. And understand, I've gotten backlash already because the recipient wasn't Latino.
You
but the
can never
concept-
do anything, like nothing is ever good enough
I'm
for
telling
people.
you.
Nothing is ever good enough.
Yeah, my sentiment is, if you feel that way about it, I encourage you to use your resources to fund something of the like, because there's space for that. You understand?
Right, and it's just, you pick the best candidate
Mhm.
and you pick the best person as a recipient.
That's right.
It's not just oh, well, I have to pick a Latino, so you're gonna pick someone who happened to be Latino, whose project could have been half as good or even less,
Mhm.
just because of, that's great because you're not worrying about the stigma around it.
Right.
So you're doing exactly what you wanted to with
Yeah.
it, and you gave it to the most talented person.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's wrong. One of the things that happens now in this country is everybody wants to fill a quota, and sometimes people who are best suited for something don't get chosen
Yeah.
because of that,
Yeah.
which is another underlying problem that we
Yeah,
we can try to fix too. But
Yeah.
but
I hope that just like Max felt an inclination to submit for the grant.
mhm.
Max, I believe, is Americans from Colorado. I hope that Indians and Blacks and Asians
Mhm.
submit
Right.
content suitable for the grant. Right.
Absolutely.
That's the goal, that all of us are writing for each other, not just because I'm Asian, I write for Asians.
Right.
It's not. It's not the best.
It's
case
almost like the
scenario.
double-edged sword of you want inclusion, but you also want to pick the best person
Mhm.
for the job,
That's right.
or who was deserving of the award.
Yeah,
So-
what Max does is, in his screenplay, he explores the concepts of hope, home, and love between Guatemalan men,
Mhm.
and it's something that we've not seen, right? Something that I look at is a budget and market validation.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything like this that has been done before, and how well has it done on a feature scale, right? Can we make this 20-minute short into a 2-hour feature, and how well will that
Wow.
do, right? I hope to get first look privileges, but who knows?
You should make that a stipulation.
We should.
You don't.
I'm not sure the university's
You
open
take
to
that.
that.
You take that award right back. You signed the contract.
Right? Yeah, but I'm
That's
super
incredible.
excited. I really believe in Max's talent. He's super young. A lot of his work has already been featured in Rain Dance. He's the recipient of the 2018 Kodak Award.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's everything going for him. Donna Gigliotti is his academic advisor. She just produced the 91st Academy Award ceremony,
Okay.
and she now sits on the Academy board.
Interesting.
So I think he has the right guidance and the talent, and he's a worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love about you, obviously besides your talent, is you're a young man. Like I mentioned, you are talented, but you also have this drive to really help people with mental health issues. And I think sometimes that's very important as a younger person, and I'm sure as a Latino, because Latino men are supposed to be macho and this, that, and the
Right.
other thing. So I think that really helps. Going around and speaking to different groups of students, has your being Latino helped other minority, Black, Asian, Latino, uh, Indian, has that helped them open up a little bit more to you or be more receptive to your message? Because mental illness has doesn't discriminate, like we said
That's
earlier
right.
in the interview.
Yeah.
But does it help having someone who is from a different background
You know,
or a similar background to the person going through it?
yeah,
Does that make them open up more to you?
yeah. I think right now in education, there's this big push for cultural responsiveness.
Mhm.
Right? How come in Black communities we're not reading more Black literature,
Mhm.
or Latino communities reading more Latino literature? And so when I've been able to speak to or at schools um, that are whose populations are minority, that's been beneficial, I think, to
Mhm.
the folks listening in. I've had grown African American men open up to me,
Mhm.
and they've said, I would have never guessed, or I've always witnessed you do this, and I
Mhm.
never understood why, but I get it because I do this.
Yeah.
So I think it does help a bit, and just putting stuff in perspective, and the SATs, right?
Right.
I think we can agree that for a long time, and I don't know now anymore, but a lot of those questions speak to certain demographic of folk.
Mhm.
I think it's important that these mental health forums speak to everyone, and that may take the
Yeah.
face of literally having different faces.
And I want to actually walk back what I just started this whole question over. Is it more of a doesn't matter what your gender is, your race or your creed? Is it more about people who have a different income are likelier to get better mental health coverage than, regardless of the color, creed, or gender or sexuality, of someone who's lower income? Are they not getting the same treatment, and is that where the stigma comes in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I won't speak as far as my tenure with Hope for Depression,
Mhm.
but I've personally seen schools that look a certain way.
Mhm.
Um, they're just not acknowledging the mental health issues in their school.
Mhm.
Huge disparities. In fact, we have higher rates of stroke in high poverty neighborhoods. There's just a complete lack of just acknowledging and getting help and the actual helpful resources. So yeah, there certain communities treat mental health and mental everything
Mhm.
with a bit more urgency than others.
In this day and age and the climate that we're all living under politically, without getting into a whole political discussion, have you found that kids are more aware of what's going on and the climate of the country, and their parents could be angry and fighting with this family member or this neighbor or this person, or just being so angry and hyper now
Yep.
because of the state of this country? Do you feel that that's affecting the youth on top of being bullied by a classmate or a peer?
I think they are more aware of the issue that this ongoing conversation about mental health, the issue that um, it brings up is a lot of folks are now saying I'm being bullied,
Mm-hmm.
but there are parameters for bullying. Bullying looks a very specific way, so it's super important that we know what bullying is before we say I'm being bullied, right?
Right.
Bullying is very different from conflict resolution.
Mm-hmm.
If you and I have an argument, I'm not bullying you, you're not bullying me, right? We get an adult to mediate that, and that's just conflict resolution. Bullying looks repetitive, disbalance of power.
In this political climate, there is bullying coming from a source which is very
Okay,
evident
okay.
on television, or anybody who watches the news, you may feel, or reads Twitter, or it may feel like that. Has that impacted you, your speaking, in terms of, okay, well, this person might be on this side and may not find this as bullying, but people who are against the one side, like, oh my God, he's bullying everybody. Like, have you found that that's been something you've had to deal with now?
Yeah, And I love that you're walking on eggshells with the
I'm walking
question.
on eggshells. I don't have to because I hate him and I think he's a
Okay.
bully. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't like to judge other people's. You may support him. I have no idea. But I feel like that is bullying at the
Yeah,
highest level,
I get it.
other than God bullying somebody, which you wouldn't,
Okay, that's right.
on such a public platform.
Yeah.
Are people watching that? I mean, is he empowering bullying?
Okay. I have a friend in law enforcement,
Mhm.
and he posts a lot on social media. He and I are. He's very conservative. You know, I'm not conservative. Um, he posted the other day, and I commented right under. You know, I have love. I have so much love for you,
Mhm.
but I grapple. I have a hard time grappling with a lot of what you post, right? And I think yes, if you're acting a certain way, and a group of folk are emulating your behavior,
Mhm.
you're that catalyst. And
Yeah.
that's huge. You're a catalyst for all of this other bullying,
Mhm.
right? But it's my responsibility. I think it's your responsibility, and ours. Just to, and it sounds so corny, but to really love on them.
Mhm.
I do believe that some of them will come around. Um, but
I've fallen down the rabbit hole myself, especially this
yeah.
whole month with Gay Pride
Yeah.
and going on to the one channel that I follow. They seem to be very post happy this year with Pride stuff, and I don't mean that to sound negatively. I feel like there was an increased number of postings about it, and it just brought the ugliness
Look at
out
that.
of everybody.
Okay.
And then that ugliness from the other side you get sucked into, and then you become as
That's
ugly as
right.
that person because you're defending it. I think one of the worst things I saw was that LGBT stands for "Let God Burn Them,"
Okay.
which I thought that
No,
was the
I don't
most
agree with that.
offensive,
Yep.
horrible. And when I see something like that, there is no stopping me. I am like
I
an
get it.
out of control
I get it.
maniac,
I
and
get
it's
it.
like you have to deal with that. It's like a big thing now that you have to navigate around.
You know, one thing we discussed is, yeah, our elected officials
Mhm.
can have certain beliefs, um, but we're not right either for
Right.
posting memes about them
Mhm.
and posting negativity and posting hate messages on their pages so much
Yeah.
that some of my peers have gotten their accounts blocked or whatever the case is, right?
Mhm.
You can't meet evil with evil.
Right.
And I really stand behind that.
And I would assume dealing with the mental health issues of the people you're speaking to, social media has got to be a huge trigger for them, based on not even political bullying or sexuality bullying, but just bullying in general. People can hide behind a keyboard,
That's right.
say whatever they want, and there's no repercussion for that, other than the fact that the person getting bullying could be sitting there, like, really ready to shoot themselves or kill themselves, and they just have one comment go the wrong way, and it's like people don't care. It's like, oh, you're this, you're that, you're gay, you're this, you're. I won't use the expletives, but then they turn off their keyboard and they go about their hate-filled lives. And there's this kid who's struggling with being gay or being black or being Latino or being whatever, and that computer on that side is turned off, and there's this kid that you have just ruined even further than he already was.
I think that's the
Or she was.
upside of having gone to school before 1999.
Yeah.
Is that you could turn it off.
Mhm.
If you're being bullied in school at 2:30, it was over.
Yep.
Now, we're all very connected with our social media and our
Mhm.
phones. Something that Hope for Depression advocates for is just turning off your phone, let's say at 4:30 p.m., and just really spending the time with your folks at home,
Mhm.
right? Because the phones become a stressor, social media becomes a stressor, and we're going to sleep with it, and we're waking up with it. We
Mhm.
never get to shut it off.
No, and then
And-
you're thinking about it as you're sleeping. And then you're dreaming about it.
Yeah,
So it's like
that's
there's
right.
never a shut off, like you said. And you made an excellent point. No matter what side of the political debate, or whether you think being gay is acceptable versus religion, that whole kind of thing, every single person turns ugly. And it's regardless of whether the catalyst is you are being attacked, so you attack back. It's still ugliness and still brings out the worst side of everyone. And so that's got to be a challenge to deal with. Isn't it?
It is, and just not going low.
Mhm.
You know, yeah.
It's hard to do that too, because
It's- yeah, to be the
then you're
bigger
like, oh,
person.
you're a pansy. You don't want to. What's the matter? You're a snowflake. You can't just have a back and forth. It's not that serious. Is the problem? Like, just go about your life. Like, what I do shouldn't affect you. What you do shouldn't affect me. If you're gonna go on a public platform and like bully someone, then yeah, it's gonna affect someone.
Right. Yeah.
But just get like, I almost wish, other than keeping in touch with friends and like seeing pictures, that's what Facebook used to be.
Okay.
Your high school friends,
Gotcha.
your family, you looked for pictures. There was none of this bullshit. And now it's just turned into a free for all circus where everyone's angry and everyone is like crazy. And I think everyone falls into that trap.
Yeah.
Because if it's something you're passionate about, you have that. Like, I remember the whole Justice and the Let thing. I went balls to the wall, hard ass, hardcore the minute it happened.
Look at that.
And I have someone who's in law enforcement as well,
Okay.
and said, dial it back a little bit. You don't know what's.
Okay.
They're like, you're gonna look stupid in the end because it's not all what it seems. And this was from the first day. This wasn't after it was coming out. This was from the first day. So it was like, I tried to like dial it down, didn't work that well.
Okay.
Until they started pointing everything out, and then it would happen like 2 or 3 days later, and I'm like, maybe I should shut up now.
Yeah, well, you see, that takes a level of maturity,
Mhm.
right? Because I think we can all welcome conversation
Mhm.
if it's coming from an informed place
Mhm.
and openness.
Mhm.
If we're not open to maybe embracing each other's ideas or
Mhm.
ideals, beliefs, whatever, then why are we really conversing? Where are we
Right.
going if not into conflict?
Mhm.
And very few people speak with, I think, that level of maturity,
Mhm.
where we're not walking into with the biases or, quite the opposite. Teach me something,
Mhm.
and if not, then I still love you for who you are.
Right. It's hard to separate nowadays. Loving
It
somebody
really
for
is.
who they are when they don't always line up the same way as your
Yeah.
thoughts. So what's next for you? You still going on the? Going to be doing more work with this organization?
I think, well, we just finished a great season,
Mhm.
right? It all leads up to this amazing symposium, which was about a month ago, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, just about a month ago. They do have their 5K run in Southampton on
Mhm.
August 4th, so I'll be there for that.
To run
I
or to
probably
support?
won't finish, but
Oh, you're
I'll
gonna
still be
actually
there
run.
to support.
Hopefully this isn't a posthumous interview.
But if they'll have me, I think Hope for Depression does it for seasons,
Mhm.
and maybe they'll find somebody else. But I'm so happy to continue with them. I think it's taught me a lot about myself, and I do love the opportunity to speak with others about this particular, mental health.
Would you like to start your own organization at one point? I know
There
it's
are a lot of moving
huge.
parts.
I know there's
Yeah.
that's a huge undertaking. It's not like, hey, I'm Jeff Lima. I speak about mental health. Let me start the Jeff Lima organization
Yeah.
and foundation and all the other crap. It's
So-
not. It's not quite that simple.
Yeah, Audrey Gross, the founder, I don't know how she does it all, and Louisa Benson,
Mhm.
they're just always working, just around the clock.
Mhm.
I don't think I have the capacity yet to spearhead something that's that impactful, because it's a doctor can't make mistakes.
Right.
I'm not calling myself a doctor, but I'm
But you play one on TV.
I'm just trying to do the most good, and
Yeah.
I would hate to say something in error or stand for something in error. One of the very earliest statements I made with Hope for Depression at a public forum, the question was, what advice would you give to teens?
Mhm.
And I said, well, stand up for yourself.
Mhm.
You have to stand up for yourself, because then they won't do it. And I think a month and a half after, I realized how toxic that piece of advice was. It's like telling someone who is physically unable to walk to get out of his or her wheelchair.
Mhm.
It doesn't work,
Yeah.
And so, I made an error, at least I think, on a not so small scale, but smaller. Now, if I go out and make my own organization and
Yeah.
make an error
Then
of
it's
that
like, oh yeah,
pedigree,
well the Jeff Lima Foundation said this. It's like, oh
yeah,
shit.
you lose all credibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just not for I'll be a part of anyone's
Mhm.
conversation. I love that.
Yeah.
but I just know I can't spearhead something that big.
I just want to thank you for coming in. When I initially reached out to you the first time, it was because I thought you were a super talented actor. I still think that, but I think you are an incredible human being.
I appreciate it.
I honestly believe that, and I'm so happy that you're using your platform for something not only are you passionate about, but that you've gone through, and that you really want to make a difference. It's not, I'm Jeff Lima, I'm an actor, look at me, I'm gonna champion this cause. You really want to do it, and you're really invested in it. You're not just a face of a campaign, you're a voice of the campaign as well. And I really admire you for that.
No,
I
man,
think
I
you're
really
incredible.
appreciate your words. Yeah.
No problem. You can pay me after this. Always got to end it with humor. Always, Jeff.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming in
Absolutely.
again. I can't wait until our next interview.
Absolutely.
Again, I think you're incredible, and I really think that people need to see just who you are and what you're about.
Excellent. Yeah, just give me a call.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.